What is ChatGPT? Is it going to be beneficial? How to use it for our advantage? Is it going to take our jobs? ChatGPT is an AI language model developed by OpenAI. It's a conversational model that was trained on a large dataset of text, which allows it to generate human-like responses to various prompts. So in simple terms, ChatGPT is a website on the internet where you can ask for something and this chatbot will be able to give you a highly accurate response and that will be human-like. ChatGPT can code, create content, manage and manipulate data, explain and tutor, write poems, and answer daily life questions. And today, we're gonna try some of those type of actions so that we see how to even use it properly, to see some hacks that you can do while using ChatGPT. Is ChatGPT perfect? And I wanted to get here, because not many people know about this software, but is it working? ChatGPT has many limitations of what it can do right now. So is it perfect? No, but at least for me the goal is to use it as an initial step to research something. It helps to have a better notion of the topic or problem you are trying to explain. I have seen that if you need to answer a question involving an image or a table, it's not the best, since the model is best at understanding plain text. But for me, ChatGPT is quite impressive, especially because we are in the early stages of this new software. So any limitation that it has should be understandable, because in the early stages, we should be expecting not too good things, and maybe in the future even better things for artificial intelligence. Some people say that it will replace coding, but it could be limited on the requests that you are making for coding. It is good for short chunks of code that might have an error to fix, but it can also give you a good start on how to write the code that you want. However, it is difficult for ChatGPT to create a complete program for you. Also, it will always give you code that runs, but that does not mean that it will give you something very logical or very efficient. Following this idea of coding, this principle can be applied to many topics. In general, ChatGPT is not quite capable of understanding the context. Therefore, you will need to be very specific about what you are providing to ChatGPT previously, because this machine does not know anything about your problem now. It is not accurate when it is performing mathematical operations. It might give you a correct formula by going through its information and concluding the right formula to use, but it will try to do an arithmetic operation later to calculate those numbers, and it will probably be incorrect. Not always, but sometimes it's very off. So we're going to review this ChatGPT thing in real time. We're going to review a little project you can do using mostly ChatGPT. Contrary to what most people think, ChatGPT is usually not able to finish an activity on its own. It usually requires a person to guide and make sure that everything is making sense. Later, we're going to see how it works with coding. For now, we're going to do a simple one. With the things we have in our pantry, we want to ask for help to see what we can cook with it. So right now we have these spices: cumin, oregano, garlic powder, Italian seasoning, and paprika. For protein, last time in the grocery store, we bought some chicken and steak. For carbs, we have some spaghetti and rice. And for veggies, we have lettuce, spinach, and tomatoes. So from that, ChatGPT will answer this. But wait a minute, ChatGPT, as we already said, does not really understand the context of the situation. So the prompt should be specific. So I will say, I'm trying to make something to eat, I am planning to cook 4 or 5 servings, and I have only these ingredients available because I haven't gone to the grocery store lately. I believe this is not insignificant because it is something that ChatGPT needs to know to give you an answer that you would like to hear. So I have the same stuff that we already talked about, cumin, spices, etc. So in the end, please, can you help me to cook something for this week? Please. You have to say please. So I am reading this recipe and this is amazing. Some things also don't make sense to me. For example, the rice. I would like also some suggestions on how to do the rice, so you can follow up. I'm not sure how to cook the rice properly. Can you tell me how many cups and how should I cook for something like 4 or 5 servings? So, wow, this explanation is really good. And I believe that's better than any knowledge of rice I've ever done in my life. Also, for example, I do not really know how to proceed with this idea of baking from the chicken. So let's be careful to let ChatGPT know that we're not talking about the rice anymore, but we're talking about the chicken and rice casserole. So I would say, from the chicken and rice casserole recipe, please explain me better how can I proceed with the part of baking the chicken until it's fully cooked. So we see here the response, and I'm not gonna lie, this throws me off a little bit, but sometimes ChatGPT can repeat things that we didn't really ask. But later, we can see that the responses are amazing. And this is exactly what I wanted. For example, preheat your oven to 375 Fahrenheit. And it even gives you the equivalent in Celsius. That is really good, that is amazing. I'm not gonna read through all of this, but overall, we definitely can see that this information has a lot of value. And then you can ask me, but what is this different from Google? It is that it is tailored for your specific needs. You can ask for a recipe that kind of has the same ingredients that you need in Google, but it will give you for sure 2 or 3 ingredients that you don't have in your pantry. So that's like confusing, right? Plus, you'll have to read all of the recipes first. Okay, so let's see if these things actually can fail. We're going to stay in the same tab we're using. That's bad, first of all. This is a bad idea, because you always want to keep a similar related topic in this conversation or any conversation. Then if you have another idea, you can open a new conversation. But we're pushing the limits a little bit right now. So we're going to say, okay, so about other unrelated topics, we're going to see if we can multiply these kind of difficult values, because if you put 2 plus 2, maybe it will. But this is not accurate 100% of the time that we're looking right now. So we shouldn't be too scared about it. It says that the answer is 1415.2, right? But the actual answer, if you calculate this, is 23,519.2. A lot of people say that this thing will replace coders. Maybe it will be, some people will do. But right now, it doesn't even know how to multiply, so we shouldn't be too scared about it. So also with coding, it is really good. It is really impressive what it can do. It can generate you a lot of code, really good code. And also it's very important that whatever you want to do with coding, that's what it's doing. It might look good, it might run, but that doesn't mean that it's doing something logical. So since this channel is about technology, we should try to see how ChatGPT codes, right? We will select a pretty common simple programming language like Python. So we can say, can you help me to learn Python programming? And it will give you a lot of text. Now this is interesting. It is saying that you should learn the basics, which I agree. It is something really important. But if you're new to coding, you might be wondering what are integers, floats, or strings. So I'm going to repeat the same topic so that ChatGPT has context. And then I am going to ask, can you give me examples of these in code? Of like integers and all of that. And as you see here, it will generate these black boxes because you can even copy that code. As you see here, this is copy code. And sometimes that is really important because there are some languages like Python that uses indentation to make it run. You can always comment your code that you forgot to do. So like you have a lot of lines, you know how to code and everything, so you have a lot of lines. And ChatGPT is actually really good for understanding your code most of the time. So it will give you good comments about it, and it will give you comments in each line. Then you can just hit copy code, and then you replace the code that you have, which it will be the same code, just with comments. That's really good. As we see here, it teaches us about variables, teaches us about control structures like ifs, for loops, while loops, says functions. And that's really good. Learning about functions is really, really good. And for example, I'm telling this thing here that if it can make me an integer result instead of the float that it's giving me right now, or how can I do that? And we can see here that it gives you the double slash, which actually I forgot about it. And so for example, after this, how do we know that it was an integer? Yeah, we see it maybe right now with a comma, because it was 9.0. So right now it's just 9, so yeah, probably it's an integer, right? It can maybe be a string, who knows? So if you don't know how to do that, right, so you just ask how to detect which type of variable I have, and I would like to know what type is quotient, and it will give you the code on how to do that as well. If you have something more difficult, I've experienced myself, it doesn't really work. But for things like this, I would say that in the past, for example, you were able to do that before. Kind of, yes, there was Stack Overflow, Q&A, forums here and there about coding, but these so tailored to what you want, specifically just copying the code that you can do for like simple things, so much more productive than before. Like you have to do your research, spend maybe like 5 to 10 minutes if it was easy to fix, and right now it's like 1 minute max. Also, right now we're just learning the basics, so it's always important when you're coding to make sure that you're not only watching videos or you're not only reading a book or reading these things from Chat GPT that is teaching you the integers and floats and everything. It's also really important that you actually write your code, like, you know, like write your thing with your own hand. Now coding, you don't write with your own hand, but you type. So make sure you do type with your hands things that you want. So for example, always doing projects is really good because that will make you do a complete little or big program. So I have some other ideas or other hacks that you can do with ChatGPT. So for example, I think people already know this because this is not that new. It is new, it is a new software, it's not that new. But you can also summarize things, and that's really good because sometimes for school, and a lot of people use this for school, a lot of teachers or professors say, hey, you can't use this, you don't have to use this, you shouldn't and everything, but that doesn't mean that you can use it for actually good things, maybe not to copy or maybe not for that. But you can, like, if your professor says, and you have time deadlines, and you need to read a really long text, you can instead just summarize all of that. And in the past, for example, that was really difficult. So right now, you just like open a new chat, you say, hey, this is my homework, always give context. This is my homework for history or for economics, so that ChatGPT knows where to go. So always make sure to tell a lot of context. If you say more context, it's better. So you can ask for things like summarizing. But a lot of people I know, they will copy the whole text. But you can actually just copy the link of that website if it's mostly text. He will use that link, he will read it, and he will be able to summarize it for you without copying that whole text. And he can even summarize some YouTube videos that especially have all of the script reading probably. He has a good pronunciation, he will probably also read it. So that's really, really cool. And I believe this is impressive because in my time, for composition 1 or 2, we didn't have this, like we had to write everything in our text. Nowadays probably professors are putting a higher bar. So I have been looking around online that you can also write some, and I already said it about using it for school to write some texts for you. For example, I was a data scientist but also economics major, and in economics you have to write a lot sometimes. You have to write essays about different things, right? And sometimes you have to be very good at what you are conveying to your professor. But you can also set the tone for it. So like if you are saying, usually ChatGPT is very, very formal. It is not deep at all. Like if you submit that, probably you'll get a 80 out of 100 grade, maybe 70 as well. But usually if you have a really good professor that is grading really detailed, I don't think he should give you 100 because the information that it usually gives you, it lacks emotion or it lacks personal examples and everything. So that's very important when you're writing to a professor or to anybody, you know, just to also sound yeah, like a good writer, but at the same time like a bad writer, you know, where you say your things, when you convey your own knowledge that it literally sounds like maybe not the best writing, but that's a good idea. So I actually believe you should first, like let's say for example you're writing an essay, you should first give good ideas, like write your own essay, give good ideas to the machine, bad writing, and then tell ChatGPT to improve your writing. Say, hey, my grammar is not best, can you improve it? Keep the same ideas, please. I also believe that this tool is really good for fitness or health or your own life just in general. So I will suggest, and I'm doing this right now, but for example, you can say things like, my weight is this, 160 pounds, I am this height. What are some indicators with this height and weight things where I can see if I'm on track or not, where can I go, you say all of this, right? For example, and then also, for example, before you do grocery shopping, you say, hey, I want to have a meal plan, and I like chicken, I like shrimp, I don't like maybe seafood, I don't like fish, I want to stay healthy though. What can you give me to be able to be healthier and get to a fitness level? Or even if you're advanced, you can say, you know, I already have meal plans, I usually eat this and that. Please give me a list to go to the grocery store so I can do that. But always, you can have like a personal life for health and fitness. You can have also your life just in general, you know, like I'm working this job for 1 year. I like this job. I like maybe going to Florida to work. What should I do? What do you think? I have these 2 degrees. I have marketing degree, for example. What are my outlooks for jobs? Right now I'm working as a marketing intern. For my next job, which companies are good? Which companies are not? What should I include in my CV? Right now I'm doing these activities. How can I include those activities in my CV later? And that will be really, really beneficial for you. Because it is like not like an expert, but like a good, knowledgeable friend that you're asking questions to, and he will be able to help you really, really good with that. Usually ChatGPT is not too good with those things. Usually you ask, hey, how much should I be earning? How much are people earning? And it will always give you responses that are very respectful, but they are not really what you want. You want the number, right? Usually Google is better for that. Or even usually for race, for gender, all of those things that we have to be careful about, religion and all of that. ChatGPT will not be able to answer you that. Some 2 good final things that I want to add, because I don't want to say the things that I don't think ChatGPT is good at, and some things are not really efficient. Like, yeah, ChatGPT is able to do it, but it's not close at all to the capacity that the human has. And some humans are kind of lazy now, thinking that ChatGPT can do it. They submit that, or somebody sees what they did with ChatGPT, and it's really embarrassing what they did, because ChatGPT sometimes is like too robotic. But for other things, it's really good. You tell ChatGPT, I would like to eat out 2 times a week. I have these 2 friends. I have maybe a girlfriend. Okay, that's one part. You can also say I work from Monday to Friday, or I go to school, I play a sport, maybe I play lacrosse, for example, right? We train for this time to that time. Friday at 9 a.m. I have an appointment with the doctor, this and that. So just in general, the idea will be that, hey, generate me a table or like a schedule where you can even copy it. Maybe you can paste that on Notion or Evernote, Notes, or Word, Excel, whatever you want. And then it will give you, my suggestion. ChatGPT will tell you, my suggestion is that on Monday, or these days you have practice, so that is locked. These days you have classes, that is locked. This is your schedule, that is locked. Your possibilities also, it is locked that you have your doctor appointment at this time, right? Maybe you have your haircut, but you don't know where to put your haircut, for example, right? So you will say, hey, what time is good to have my haircut while I am productive and I don't cut my momentum? So it will tell you, hey, at this time do homework, at this time go to the haircut, and why not? Also, you can ask for things, and I think this is really important for mental health things, just in general. Maybe you're suffering a lot, I hope not, but maybe you're suffering not too much, just a little bit stressed. So you can say, also, try to keep a good balance for me. You forgot to say that. Now you say, can you also give me suggestions or a new schedule to try to keep a good balance, because I'm stressed, I feel like I'm a little bit depressed, this and that, what activities I can do, and include that to my schedule. So maybe we'll tell you, hey, in the morning always wake up and do some journaling. Always wake up and exercise. Or my schedule doesn't really work for me, can you tweak it this way or that way? That is something that is really, really beneficial. Okay, so for me personally, that's what I have been doing lately with ChatGPT. It is really beneficial for me. I'm not saying that ChatGPT was bad, because I definitely criticize ChatGPT, but I'm saying that you should find for the things that it is good for. And I believe that it is good for those things, and take the most out of it. Use it as a tool, use it for help for you, but not really for an end goal where you do everything with it. It will be very robotic. Your responses, especially if you share that with other people. That's it for now. Those were my ideas that I have for ChatGPT. I believe it is a really good tool.